Hello, and welcome to the Grand Cinema Hotel, a podcast hosted by two friends who love cinema. I'm Gus, and I'm joined by my co-host Alvaro. Tonight, you'll be staying in room 157, Aftersun, the feature film debut from Scottish film director Charlotte Wells. So go ahead, get comfortable, and throw on that Do Not Disturb sign as we join a father and daughter on a Turkish getaway with Aftersun.
When you ever feel like tired and down and feels like your bones don't work, like you're sinking.
What is going on my fathers and daughters only? Thank you for checking back into the Grand Cinema Hotel. Tonight, we are here to talk about one of our favorites of the year. I'm joined by Alvaro.
What's up, guys?
And we're talking about A24's, one of A24's latest, directed by Charlotte Wells, Aftersun, dude, starring Paul Mescal and Frankie Carrillo, I believe is her name.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. How did you feel about this movie? I know we both really like this movie. Give me some of your first thoughts, man.
I am gonna say, I guess, I don't remember at the top of my head which one was last year, but A24 does seem to have a sneaker, just films that come a lot for this podcast that we weren't expecting, and then really,
Was it Come On.
Yeah, it's Come On. That's what I was gonna. It just hit me, yeah. But this one might be arguably, I would say it's one of the best films I've seen in definitely this year, but also just in a while. It's one of the ones that stands out very well to me. I think there's not too much promotion of this film, honestly, and I think that kind of maybe it's hard to promote a film like this. I think it's a very personal love letter, like you said, how our intro is between a father and a daughter's relationship, and I think this film is just truly one of just beautiful, and I really enjoyed watching this film, and I was lucky enough to watch it in the a big screen, and I was just very emotional after watching this film, and I guess I'm just really impressed with the direction this literally has.
So you did see it in the theater. I don't remember asking you before this.
Mm-hmm. I saw it in the theater. Shout out A-List. I did have to go my way to watch it, but I definitely think it was worth it. I ended up, this was not that long ago, so I could have waited a little bit longer and had it. It probably would have been, it's on VOD now, but I just, it's such a beautiful film, and I just truly enjoyed watching it in the theater. And I mean, now it doesn't take anything away from it being, because it's such a personal film. I think even watching it at home, I didn't really lose much of that emotional connection.
Nice. So I want to start with the A24 thing. You've seen a lot more movies than I have this year. Mm-hmm. Probably double, I would say. I think you've seen double the amount of movies I did, as in 2022 releases. Mm-hmm. I'm having a hard time kind of remembering A24's slate this year. I would say it's Bodies, 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 Everything, Everywhere, All at Once. This movie, there's that military movie. Mm-hmm. Overall, not to veer off a subject too much. I mean, I haven't even started, honestly, but how do you feel about A24's year? I mean, we're big A24 fans. There's no hiding that. Do you feel like it was a good year? Do you feel like it was a bad year?
I will say that I think it was a good year. I think last year, Neon Ticket, I remember kind of commenting on that because Titan was so good. And we had Spencer. This year, Everything Everywhere All at Once, Aftersun, X, Funny Pages, Pearl, The Whale. Yeah, those are the only ones right now that come on top of my head that I thought really stood out. You brought up Bodies, Bodies, Bodies. We did that episode. I would say they had a good year. I really, and I know you too. I really like X, and I really like Aftersun. So I feel like every year I get two movies from them that I like. I guess this is why I really like.
What about Everything Everywhere All at Once?
Three, yeah, that's true.
3, right?
Yeah, 3. So I always expect at least 2, and then this year I feel good point there. I got a good third one too, and I really enjoyed The Whale.
You also really enjoyed Funny Pages, right? So
yeah.
Would you say 4 or no? You feel like
But Funny Pages might be one of those movies that I really like for the year, but I don't know how much I'll watch it like in the future.
Okay, but X, Aftersun, and
Everything,
Everywhere
yeah.
All at Once. You
Like,
know you'll watch those.
yeah, like
multiple times, right?
those are when people grow up and they have their cinephile card. We watched those movies when they came out. It's like The Lighthouse and The Green Knight. Like they get added to this. This is why I am a
I was
fan
there,
of it.
man.
Yeah, and I do think that they're movies that's gonna like, and not even taking anything from Funny Pages because I do like it, but I just think that's even a more thrown under the rug film. Which I mean, they do have a lot of, right. Like even we were talking about The Inspection. Like that movie there's no mention of it. I mean,
What's that? I don't even know what
no,
that is.
that's the movie with the military movie, the A24. Yeah, that's the
the
name of it.
LGBT pride
Yeah, like
military movie.
I personally, and I know you kind of felt the same way, was just not really interested in the concept. So I was and it wasn't easy to watch. It wasn't like at any of the local theaters. So it is hard to go out of a way for certain movies. And I will be the first to say I have bias towards some movies. So just wasn't one that I really wanted to reach out to. But I just want to say their promotion for certain movies have always kind of been, even last year we talked about this a little, weak. But back to where we're talking on this podcast, like Aftersun though kind of fits the mold of an A24 film that's a little bit more under the radar, but I do think this is just an excellent debut.
Yeah, I mean, it could be argued, and I'm sure a few have so far, that this is their best movie of the year.
Yeah.
Because I know The Beast got a little too big, and Everything Everywhere All at Once got too big for the internet, so it's the worst movie ever now.
Yeah.
Which is like, maybe I feel like I was a little, not too positive, but I was very quick to be like, man, this really is one of the best movies I've ever seen. And I should probably stop saying that after I've seen a movie only like 2 or 3 times, because, who knows? Like, I do feel weird now, this is kind of, we've been teasing this list for a while now, but surprisingly, Everything Everywhere All at Once was not my favorite A24 movie of the year, even though I do think it's one of my favorite movies of all time. I still do believe that it's one of my favorite movies of all time. But yeah, I'm in the camp of people who think Aftersun is the best movie they put out this year. Or, X and Pearl got a lot of love. I didn't really see X and Pearl on too many people's like end of years list, but highly regarded, But yeah, kind of getting off of A24 a bit. I just kind of wanted to see where you were on that, because I don't know if I felt like last year was great for them either. But like you said, they do have either like somewhere between 1 and 3 every year. That's like, oh yes, this is fucking tight.
Yeah.
And the 3 were pretty good this year,
Yeah, I mean, like I said, even you notated, like I have in my top 10, I think there's 4 of them or 5 of them, but I definitely could see how The Whale is something that would be a little not like, I could see a lot of plot holes there, but with Aftersun here, I just think it's Aftersun, X, and Everything Everywhere All at Once. I think is really auteur driven films, and that's kind of one of the things I know that I really enjoy about being able to watch films that maybe don't have the biggest budgets, is where directors kind of show off their character.
I have not seen this in the theater. I don't know if this is necessarily the that was the required experience to fully, absorb the movie. I think it's fine that I watched it at home. I do think that the in a good way, the low quality of the imagery, that it fit for watching it on TV, especially because it has that home movie feel.
Yeah.
So it actually, I thought, worked more to its advantage that I watched it at home, actually. As funny as that sounds, because I would rarely say that about a lot of films, but I do think that being at home kind of just gave it that feel of that personable, like, time to just like sit and reflect and think about these times that were had, so, but I am sad that I didn't get to go see it. I always do want to see a movie in the theater if possible, but one of the reasons that this movie is so good to me or so relatable is obviously because I am a new father, and when you are a new father, you don't get to go to the movies as much. You don't get to see 100 movies a year anymore at the theater, at least. But so kind of fitting that I couldn't see the movie about the fathers and daughters because I'm a father with the daughter. But now that I have seen it, I fucking love this movie. I think it's extremely good. And I would say in a quote unquote art house way that this film is very good. It isn't really narrative driven or focused on the plot as much as it is like what you can do with film. You know, like this
Yeah,
movie
exactly.
really encapsulates, you know, periods of reflection and memory, and even I wouldn't say fantasizing because, but I don't know what the right word is, as like, you know, filling in the blanks
Yeah.
of the things you didn't see, and just kind of like how you remember things as a child versus how you see them as an adult. Much like with the Fablemans, you know, this movie kind of hit a little too close to home for me in a lot of places because it really was one of those like, wow, I've been there, I've done that, I've lived this movie, you know what I mean? So it fucking, you know, it had me in a hold within like 5 minutes of the film, dude. I was in, you know, it didn't take much for me to just, you know, fall in love and be like that critic who watched Memoria, be like,
Surrendered
I
myself.
surrendered myself to Aftersun.
I think just kind of banking on what you said, that's where the movie really stands out to me too, is that it's so much more about what's not said than what is said. And there's so much story given out of narratives that you growing up in every aspect of characters here have experienced either with, you know, Paul Mescal's character or his daughter. Being obviously, like you said, we're older and you have a daughter, we're reaching the age kind of that Paul Mescal's character in the movie seems to be. And there's aspects of his character that I've had friends, you know, or that you could see in yourself. And I think that's where the movie kind of becomes really relatable. And also because we're in that age gap where the memories of someone like her age in the movie could still resonate with somebody that's 30. And I think the movie even kind of really comments really well on that with Paul Mescal's even memories of his past. And there's just so much emotional weight that this film has that I don't think many films could really even get right with words. There's so much here that, you know, an image is 1,000 words, as they say, but this just has so much emotional, what do you say, gravitas, right? And
It's a deeply emotional, like on an emotional aspect, it's pretty epic for a movie where technically nothing happens.
yeah, and I think kind of going a little bit more to the like aspects of it, the way it's shot, like you said, makes it look like a home video. Obviously shot on film, which is always a little niche, little plus just for the bias. But I will say
the
that
DV footage, dude, the mini DV footage, like that's what we're talking about. Not the fact that it's shot on film.
Yeah.
Just how many of the important
DV,
scenes
yeah.
in the film were shot or appear to be shot on a little handheld mini DV camera from I think the movie takes place in like 2000, 2001. It pretty much has to for that tech. It would either be late 90s or early 2000s.
Yeah, and I think again commenting on that, which is it's just a perfect thing because we were part of it to know that when those gadgets came out, right, they are things that have captured, my parents have captured moments of our birthdays and moments that people, they live forever, but they are truly reflections of emotions. You see people who may be gone, but they live in these videos, and they're not necessarily obviously artistically driven or big budgeted like a movie, but they hold much more emotional value than anything, you know, you could truly see like in movie theater, because it's the most relatable stuff. But I think that's why the movie seems, it's something that you wouldn't think a movie would be able to really capitalize on, and the fact that you're thrown into a world where you don't get much insight in our characters and you can still feel so much for them, and kind of you don't need much time, like you said, 5 minutes in, you kind of are already emotionally connected to these characters to figure out like there's something wrong here, but what is wrong? And I think that's where the appeal comes.
Yeah, definitely, dude. One thing that has really changed for me, obviously, since I've become a dad, is every movie now that I watch, I'm watching from an entirely different perspective than I ever did before. So, you know, maybe before my daughter was born, I might have been like, oh, well, I relate to the 11-year-old more than I relate to the 30-year-old dad. But now that I am a dad, dude, when I watch every movie and I'm watching it through the parent's perspective, that's what made this movie so much more heartbreaking for me, was because I've been that kid. But then now that I'm a dad too, and like I'm like, fuck, dude. Like, I literally told my wife when I was watching this with her, I was like, I hope this never fucking happens to me. And you would think, like, wait, what happens, right? Nothing. But it's just that, like you said, that unspoken, like, not tension. Tension's the wrong word, but just that uneasiness, you know, that uncomfortability that's just riding throughout the whole movie. The seeing your kid have the same things wrong with them that's wrong with you, you know, and
Yeah.
you're like, fuck, like, is this really how it works? You know, like, it's just some deeply, I don't want to say troubling, but you know, it really fucking hits in a different way once you're a parent too, you know, to see these movies from these other perspectives now that I never saw before. And, you know, you can't see it until you've done it. So I understand not everyone is going to be like, oh, well, that's not a valid point or criticism either way. But I'm just telling you, man, that shit fucking hits different when you've been through it, you know?
It's like the bias. That's where it's not a bias of your choice. That is a bias of like what I was exposed to and what does attract me and what will emotionally hit with me more than, I don't know, watching dog movies like other people, you know, like watching movies where the dog is the savior or stuff like that.
Yeah, I get you. Like, I wouldn't even say this movie feels like emotional bait the same way that a movie like that might feel.
Yeah,
you know?
no.
Like, it isn't like trying to be like a tearjerker, you know, but it's just if you've been there or if you can even just relate to it from that point, it's just like, wow, this is just deeply sad, you know?
Another aspect I just really completely loved, because I was talking about the visuals and kind of got sidetracked there, was just how much blue is used in this movie. I thought, you know, we always kind of joke about the
curtains aren't
just blue, but this movie is just so solemnly blue. Everything is so fitting to the mood, and I think it just works so well, especially when we talked about like because the way it's shot and the way it really comments on memories and emotions and childhood and just growing up and two coming of ages eras that we've kind of talked a lot about this with the worst person in the world, but growing up to be 30, and especially growing up to be 30 when you've had a kid that's so young and everybody kind of doesn't see you as a dad, but you have to hold that weight, and it's a weight that like I said, I have no experience in it, but it's a completely different weight that you can't relate to. And I think the movie just really portrays Paul Mescal's character,
the uneasiness that he has too of being a dad, you know. It's like he wants to do the right thing, he seems to be doing the right things, like, you know, the things that we see at least, but those demons that are hidden inside of him, you know, like that's some real shit right there, dude. We've all seen it, you know, like you're like, fuck, why does my dad look so sad, you know what I mean, or like, why is my mom so sad, and like, damn, why am I sad, you know what I mean,
exactly.
Where it just fucking, you're like, dude, like it was just too real, you know what I mean? And I think one of the reasons it was, I kind of wanted to say this earlier when you were talking about how it was shot, you know, this isn't breaking news here that everybody nowadays is constantly recording themselves, making content, you know, doing TikToks, whatever. But the emotional weight that comes with that home video era, or even now, you can still get it now with your phone. It's just most people are posting it, you know?
Yeah.
But I don't know if you've had much experience of watching home videos, but it can be really, really emotional, even just to see yourself as like a really young child. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, I remember when I was like a teenager, I watched my home videos of when I was like a really small baby, like 1 or 2 years old. And like, I remember thinking like, what the hell? Like, I was that happy once upon a time. And I was a teenager when this happened, you know? So like, I had already been through my teenager shit, you know? So then to watch those home videos, like, it's kind of like what you said earlier. It's like people could be dead. They're completely different people now. It's like a new place, but it's kind of like we saw Babylon recently. And one of the lines I really enjoyed in that film is like how everybody in film will be dead one day. And you're just like looking at the ghost of, like, this is the only way that stays alive is like through these ghosts that you watch on screen.
It's the same thing.
You can kind of feel that way about your own life given enough time. You know what I mean?
I mean,
if you watch a video from 5 years ago of you and your friends or whatever, you and your mom or whatever, like, it just brings you back to that moment in a way that maybe we're like desensitized to that now because we can do so much and record so much, or make it an actual fucking movie instead of just a silly little video, like you said. Like some of the stuff Sophie does, like when she's looking in the mirror doing little selfies and stuff, like that's not special now, but it was, you know. And if you weren't there, you're not gonna remember it. But it did feel kind of important to capture these moments, like a family vacation like that, like that would be the perfect time to do that. You weren't just busting it out at home for no good reason.
I think the biggest,
Like I record everything now.
right, yeah, I think the biggest thing that the film does and kind of comments on what you're talking about that really just solidifies the brilliant writing here and just the brilliant direction is that we end up, not to get ahead of myself a little too much, but you kind of end up finding out that this is being seen through a certain perspective, and it's like you being able, we're witness to this person coming to realization of these home videos, what these emotions were present, and when she might have seen them as a kid, and she might not have understood them, but after you have certain life experiences and you grow up a certain way, or you're trapped under the same emotional, I guess, jails that someone like your parents might be, it all starts to make a different sense. Like you said, once you are a father, you see things a different way, and I think the movie just brilliantly has that overlapping theme, because it's not something that at first, when you're first watching it, that seems too prevalent up until a certain scene, and then you're kind of like, okay, I get what's going on, because for the first time I was watching it, you, like every film, you kind of expect the big thing to happen.
What's the inciting incident, or what's the second act thing that's going to happen? When are they going to explode and yell at each other and reconcile at the end?
Yeah, like
I know what you're talking about.
A Marriage Story, or, and there's nothing wrong with that. There's a lot of films that go that way that are still really good. But I thought that this film teased that almost for a bit, where you're like, no way. And then it played with you. And that's when it kind of throws you into the memories are not something you could rely on, and you also have these ways of capturing it with the DV camera, the video camera, but then it could be something that you're filming so obvious in front of you, but you don't really understand, and it could take years later. But something like that, you kind of talked about the emotions, kind of caught how fast we do it. We're so desensitized because we record everything. But when you would record the one video of your friend, you guys hanging out, like the Christmas videos of you opening your gifts, they meant more, because those are memories that you have in your head, but they're solidified once they're recorded. And I just thought that the way that that kind of ends up connecting, and the way that we end up seeing how throughout the whole movie, I keep forgetting her name.
In the
character,
movie?
yeah,
Sophie.
So adult Sophie and her father, how they do live in a very, they still live together, and what we can only imagine is, her thought, like, made up I guess idea of him in her head. But that is just something that I really, really, I think propelled me to really think about, like, no, this is when he talked about some people saying this is their favorite movie of the year, I think my bias gets in the way of me saying that. But I do think it's a completely, like, I agree, but I do think my bias is kind of like, I like these two more, but
Yeah, like I wouldn't say it's the most technically amazing movie, but boy, is it so well handled. Like Charlotte Wells, she is a filmmaker who really, really understood exactly what she was going for. And I would say it most likely is because it's such a personal thing to her.
Yeah.
But, I also want to give her credit that, maybe in her second movie or third movie, it's going to be like, no, wait, she's really fucking good, but just that ability of, like you said, to not give in to that, okay, now we're going to have our big explosion because I need to make a movie, like to shift away from that and like, no, I'm going to do it how I want to do it, not the way that like the studio or the audience would expect me to do it. Because like you said, like as an audience member, we're so well trained because we've seen enough movies to be like, okay, so let's see here. It's an hour and 40 minutes. 40 minutes has passed. Okay, in the next 20 minutes, there's going to be an argument or there's going to be something, And what you actually get is so small and so subtle that if it's kind of I don't want to say it's like a blink if you miss it movie, because it's not a hard movie to understand. It's all there, dude. I do think it has to do with like your this movie's about reading between the lines. You know what I mean? Of like, can you read the unspoken? Can you, that doesn't even make sense. Can you read the unspoken? But can you read the unwritten words? You know what I mean? Like, can you see what's going on without actually acknowledging it?
Yeah.
And then for her to be, she's 11 years old, to this character Sophie and her dad is 30. She's trying to understand her dad, and I do think she's doing a good job, but she's 11 years old. There's just certain things that she's never gonna get, you know. And that's kind of what makes it so much more tragic, you know, is that she wants to be there for her dad and her dad wants to be there for her, but there's just something that, you know, what are you gonna get out of an 11-year-old? You know what I mean? Like, there's not much they can really do for each other in terms of like making it better is not the right word, but you know, it's tough shit when an 11-year-old can tell that you're sad as fuck and you're like, I can't hide this, but I also can't even begin to explain what is wrong. You know, that's a deep question to ask.
It's like one of the scenes where it kind of becomes prevalent to is the dad that they're going to repeat. That cycle could be repeated, right? And I think it kind of throws you in a loop as a person who is responsible for another person in this world to want to give those cold facts or shine light on the darkness that your life could be in hopes that it wouldn't influence, you know, her way to think that way. But when the second that you hear that you could have tried all this, or I would do things so differently had I had a better job or whatever it may be for his, because we don't get those inciting things. We just know that he's unhappy. He also, well, I'm getting ahead of myself, but I was going to say is the scene where he just kind of understands that she might be falling into the same cycle is one of those heartbreaking scenes, because it's, you know, that's like the worst thing that he thought could have happened. And it almost just creates so much more hate for himself. And I think after that point in the movie, it seems like where everything does get like a lot more tension filled, but it's tension that she can't even explain because she doesn't understand it, and he doesn't understand her place in the world yet either. And the only remembrance that he kind of gets to that is when she does bring up the question, like, what about on your birthday when you were 11, you know?
It's a bad question to ask.
Yeah,
dude.
it's like terror. And how would she know, you know? But it's also him, like, I don't want to answer this question because I don't want to be honest about the grim way that I think about these things. And yeah, just one of my favorite scenes, I think, throughout the whole film. There's so many, like you said, that are read throughout, like between the lines, but this one just felt just as strong. There's just so many really strong moments here, but that's just one that, due to the discussion how it was going, I felt like was worth bringing up.
Dude, this would be such a good companion piece with the Fablemans, like to watch back to back. If you want to watch a movie about families, but not the traditional family, I do think that these are two great films. And I'd go out on a limb and say half of my list of movies is about family. And obviously it's because, you know, I'm a family man now, right?
Dom Toretto.
Yeah, family.
He's Peter Griffin.
Yeah, she called me Peter Griffin because I'm a family guy.
Yeah. Can I say?
Yeah, man. It's just different, you know. And like you were saying, that moment that I think we need to synopsize the film pretty soon.
Mm-hmm.
But I was gonna that moment that you're speaking on, where he kind of realizes, like, oh fuck, like she sounds just like me. You know, I haven't had this moment yet because my daughter is so small, but sometimes my daughter has like bad dreams or nightmares or whatever, like I guess as much as a 6-month-old could. And it crushes me because I'm like, what did I do? Or, you know, your whole world relies on me and your mom. So like, are you having a bad dream about me, or are you having a bad dream? Like, what? Your life is great. Like, what are you so sad about? So it's like, even now I have a 6-month-old daughter who wakes up crying sometimes, and I'm like, holy shit, like, is this sadness internalized? And like, did I pass this on to my daughter? You know what I mean? And like, I can only imagine how much worse it's gonna get. But you know, like, yeah. I'm already feeling this shit, and she's a little tiny baby, dude. I'm like, oh fuck, is this my fault? Is this generational trauma that I passed on to my baby through her DNA? Like, so yeah. I can't imagine when she's 11 years old and my bones feel tired. Everything feels tired. I'm just, you know, you ever just feel sad after a long day? Yes, like I do. So this movie was somehow very comforting, but also very worrying to me, you know? Yeah. I'm like, oh man, this is just a matter of time until I get here. Like, you know, it was kind of not a wake up call, but you know, just, wow. Like I don't know if I needed this right now, but I'm sure glad I got it.
I also was going to say another aspect of the film the relationship that he has, but with Sophie's mom and himself, we kind of know that they were obviously split up, and that had its weights on its own. But there's a line where he kind of talks. He's like, "Why do you guys always say I love you to each other, even though you're not together?" And like, well, she'll always be family, you know. And it's kind of she's kind of catching on the DV and those essence of those moments. You and this person created something together, and regardless of where it goes in life, there is always going to be, I mean, there should be, in a healthy way, there should be always love there. And I think the film always kind of shows that there's so much trying that was in Paul Mescal's character as a dad here that he just can't really help. And I think that's kind of where it gets really sentimental, because you feel bad for somebody who's trying so hard to not get the results that he's getting. And it's relatable in that way, just in, frustrations, and having not just frustrations for yourself, but having a whole, like you said, generational stress, that a decision that you can make, or a reaction that you could have, or a lack of resources to something could drastically either impair or change your kid's judgment. And I don't know what gets heavier than that, like you said.
Yeah. Yes, I know exactly what you're talking about. So in case you're wondering, what the hell are these guys talking about? What happened in this movie? Let me synopsize it for you really quick. So 20 years after their last holiday at a fading vacation resort, Sophie reflects on the rare time spent with her loving and idealistic father, Callum. At 11 years old, as the world of adolescence creeps into Sophie's view, Callum struggles under the weight of life outside of fatherhood. Sophie's recollections become a powerful and heart-rending portrait of their relationship as she tries to reconcile the father she knew with the man she didn't. So, yeah. So it is kind of hard to... I would say it's kind of hard to spoil this movie, because it's not really something you can spoil. Like I said, it's not the most narrative-driven movie.
No.
It's definitely a character study.
Mm-hmm.
And even more than that, I wouldn't even just call it that. I do think it's just this... It's like its own category, kind of like The Fabelmans, where it's like these filmmakers now who reflect on their own life and just like make art out of the bad shit in their life, and like not every movie needs to be personal. I'm sure some of the greatest movies are not. No matter how much Francis Ford Coppola might try to tell you that Apocalypse Now is a personal movie, that's not true. Yeah. Like how personal could it be, dude? But stuff like this, stuff like The Fabelmans, Roma, Belfast, Bardo, I guess. Yeah, I mean, I do like that movie, but it's like this new little subgenre that's starting to exist, and maybe people have done it forever. I'm sure that Godard or fucking Fellini had a movie like this somewhere, or somewhere in the French New Wave or Italian cinema. They've had movies that are like this before, but it's becoming really prevalent now. This like little subgenre of the personal movie, and the things you can do with that genre are just really unlimited. Like to see it as like, if you would have told me this was just a movie about a father and daughter going on vacation and they're both sad, I'd be like, I don't know, that sounds kind of whack. But the way it's done, and like how well handled that Charlotte Wells did this, like I'm just amazed at how much of a nothing movie could do so much to me. Like, is this my Jean Dielman? Like, were they peeling potatoes? And I was like, no, you don't get it though. It's so good.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, I don't even know where I was trying to go with that, but man, I just really fucking like this movie.
I will say, so far, I have seen consensus of anybody who has seen this movie really like it.
Letterboxd. Go ahead.
They like really like it, and I think it's for a reason. It funny enough,
boring. Nothing happened.
I think it might seem that it's a sensitive topic and unrelatable to a lot of people for the reason they might not like it, but I think that the fact that anybody who has seen it and their reactions to it make it very relatable is just shows how well the film works, and how there's not a second spared here at all. And like you said, there's things so much suggested here. I really like the scenes where Sophie's just growing up as a woman herself and kind of just having those teenage questions answered, and kind of just having these moments of intimacy with, another teenager,
Mm-hmm.
and those are things that are sometimes hard to be discussed in such a medium that happens to be so much more, as they would say, macro instead of micro. But this seems to be like I said, a micro character study into something that's so emotional. And I feel just like you. I can't really stop gloating about this movie too much. I am also really surprised by it because I do feel like it came out of nowhere, and that's something we kind of touched upon in the beginning. But I didn't really expect much of this film when I did hear about it. I didn't expect to like it this much, and those are always kind of my favorite ones.
Yeah. Sorry. Okay, so I'm on Letterboxd. I'm 1 star is usually, I feel like there's a lot of baggage that comes with the 1 star,
Yeah.
Like to give a movie a 1 star, it really had to have either offended you or I've been known to give a half star here and there. Right, to specifically Halloween Kills and the latest Texas Chainsaw. So it can be done. I'm letting you know it can be done. But I usually like to go to 2 stars to kind of judge the like
people who are like, what?
No, yeah, what the hell is this? I'm not gonna give anybody on Letterboxd any kind of shout outs here, so I'll just kind of kind of just brush through, leaving me with nothing but a tasteless and underwhelming experience. It manages to fail in almost every aspect. Honestly disappointed. I should have kept my expectations low. How could a movie about a random kid and her dad be so overrated? Nothing impressive nor remarkable. This nails what it feels like to be bored and 11 years old with your sad dad, but there's no narrative or tension. So, yeah, I mean, I didn't connect with the plot. Sorry, not sorry. That was you with the Fablemans.
I was happy, yeah.
That was you with the Fablemans. I don't like the way you handled your parents' divorce. I would have did it differently.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, okay, I guess you're just cool with your dad being a cuck. Whatever. But yeah, so I understand. I guess I understand where people are coming from, but it just hit me in the right place, and maybe I am the target audience for a movie like this. But in the words of Howard Ratner, I disagree. Okay, sorry, I just do. Like, are your points all valid? Kinda. Be like, but that's not how I felt when I watched this movie. And I guess that's the great thing about these kind of things, right? Is that someone could be like, this is 2 stars, nothing happened, this is boring. And I'm like, what are you talking about? Everything happened. This was the best thing I've ever seen.
I think it is, there's like a stylistic choice, or maybe favorite genre, or maybe favorite type of approach of a story. And sometimes people fall susceptible to always wanting the story to mimic that, or that's the best way to do something. And I think it's hard to judge this film in terms of it being nothing happened, because I think it's, if you don't relate to it, it's not, I don't know if it's meant to be mass relatable, and I don't know if it's supposed to necessarily connect with somebody who's not open to connecting to the source. And like you said, it's something that's deeply personal. So I think this is somebody who, with their first film, decided to just kind of really get this one out of the way in terms of creating something that maybe would be seen as a task that you might want to handle later. Lee kind of talked about directors or people doing stories reflecting on their own personal experiences.
I'm loving this, dude.
Yeah.
I'm really a big fan of the genre. I have not seen Belfast. I didn't want to see the Irish Roma ripoff, but I for the most part though, I'm really, really loving this new genre, or newer, whatever. Like, I don't want to be called out like, you're a noob, you don't know that this was invented in the 60s. But yeah, I'm really enjoying it.
I was gonna say, like, I have seen, like, for example, Tarkovsky's mirror, and
he invoked him.
and I think I talked about, because we were having a conversation. Bardo reminds me a lot about it, actually, but I do think that it's something that a director who is usually more established tackles the source material in terms of letting their life kind of marinate more to earn that experience and kind of get the reach around. Like, and now as a kid, this was my outlook, and now that I'm a full grown adult, this is what I know. But to be able to tackle it when you're not really at that point yet, and especially in your creative venue, still trying to make a name for yourself, I think to put something out so personal and for to get such a good reception to it is outstanding to me. But I also don't think that the hate that we kind of talked about, I just don't think it is almost as validated, because it seems to be, if you don't relate to it, it's not the worst thing, in all
Good
honesty.
for you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that's like kind of weird to say about a movie, but it's the same guy to be like, I don't relate to this, sorry. Be like, but unfortunately people do, and this movie is for those people, or for a key demographic that could at least understand. Well, I think because we've kind of been talking about this all year in a couple of the past episodes, the 8, I watch 8 movies a year. Of course, if you watch them, nothing happened, right? But I watch films where, we talked to the number one Sight and Sound, nothing happens. Legitimately, nothing happens. And then, like, to compare those two films, for example, be like, there's so many more. You want to see nothing happen? I'll show you a film where nothing happens.
I'll show you a movie where a lady peels potatoes.
Yeah. I understand not resonating with it, but it's such a personal love letter to, honestly, being human and emotional, and just having this it's weird, like those sad moments in retrospect, what you talked about, when you watch old videos of yourself, whether seeing the happiness that was later to find out you should have been sad, or whatever it may be. I think those are, you can't really comment on those movies as negative. It is just relatable, if that's like, and it's hard to really, for me to judge so hard on people who don't like it, because like I said, yeah, it's good that you don't relate to it.
Yeah, I wish I didn't relate to this movie. So let's dive into the movie a little bit. I mean, I think it's about time. Typical podcaster, 40 minutes in. We should probably start talking about the movie. So 11-year-old Frankie, she's on vacation with her dad in Turkey. Her dad is played by Paul Mescal. For a lot of people, this is probably going to be either their first outing with Paul Mescal. If you've seen The Lost Daughter, which was a vacation movie from last year from Maggie Gyllenhaal, he was in that as well. That was where I saw him. And I do know about Normal People, the TV show that he was in with what's her face, Fresh. Is it Daisy Edgar Jones?
Yeah, Daisy Edgar Jones.
Yeah. So, but I know Paul Mescal is definitely very big in the online world, especially for the guys and gals and everybody else who is big into film photographers who wear dirty Converse and drink cold brews. I know Paul Mescal is very daddy in that world.
I will say this is interesting.
Oh, Phoebe Bridgers fan? I definitely like Paul Mescal.
Seriously. That this is even his second A24 movie this year.
What's the other one?
Only God's Creatures.
Or
God's Creatures, sorry, not only God's Creatures.
I know about that movie, but I didn't know that was an A24.
That movie is been pretty under too. Haven't gotten too much reception. I need to watch that, but that is, when I saw the trailer for that movie, which I did see in theaters, interestingly enough, God's Creatures, that's where I recognized him from, and that's what kind of made it more interesting to me, because I didn't see a trailer for Aftersun. Aftersun is one of the ones that I just through people saying that it's really good was what made me interested in it. But God's Creatures is where I did see Paul Mescal with Emily Watson, I think. So it is. I did find that interesting, because
I got hooked from the teaser image of Paul Mescal with wearing the striped shirt with the broken arm, and Sophie's is sitting in his lap. That got me, because I was like, I was just in from that photo, but I wasn't like looking forward to it. I don't think I've seen a trailer for this movie. For me, at least, the big marketing push was Instagram. big on Instagram. I was seeing this everywhere. Aftersun, Aftersun, Aftersun. And like I said, I wasn't able to see it. But yeah, he is very under the radar right now.
Right now,
I
yeah.
feel like he's about to have his. This is the inkling. This is the beginning, which is it's a great start to have.
Throw him
To
in
be in
Dune.
like to what?
Throw him in Dune, huh?
Yeah, I was just gonna say that. You fucking stole it from me. I was like, put him in Dune 3 because he can't be in 2. 2's already wrapped up. Like, but fuck you. I was gonna say that. But yeah, he'll be in Dune 3 or I don't know, Fantastic Beast 4 maybe. Who knows? Something like that. I do see Paul Mescal becoming a household name for. I don't know what that means anymore, but I do see him becoming extremely popular.
I see him
I
coming.
can see him being in the same light as like an Andrew Garfield, Adam Driver.
Yeah,
type
yeah.
Of, a type of vibe, as the young people of today would say. But yeah, so the film is really just carried by these two characters. I mean, they're honestly the only characters in the movie except for an adult Sophie. The mother, we never see her, just through the phone. So we really are just kind of stuck on this awkward vacation, which so much is not said, like you mentioned earlier, right? When's the last time he saw her? What does he do for a living? What's their situation? Is the mother engaged? Because when he does talk to her on the phone, he's like, "Oh, I'm so happy for you. Congratulations." Did she get a job? Is she pregnant? Is she engaged to somebody else? Like it just leaves so much there for you.
Yeah.
And it lets you kind of, build it up for yourself. And I think that's got a lot to do with the memories and the reflecting of what's real and what's imagined, like it kind of puts you in Sophie's shoes of like, oh, what are they saying to each other? Like you just want to know so much and none of it is given to you. So I do think that helps with the not having a preconceived notion about like, oh, this is probably just some deadbeat dad,
Yeah, exactly.
Okay, he's doing this to make himself look good. He does come off as a father who is extremely caring and wants his daughter to be, raised the right way. He's willing to do, be cordial with the mother. He is trying his best to give her good memories. But he's a fucking human being, man. Be like all the same struggles and problems you're going through, that didn't go away because he's her dad. Like if anything, it's 10 times worse than it was before. So I just felt for him deeply. I couldn't help but be like, damn, he's me for real, even though my daughter's not 11 years old. But at any age of becoming a father, you're just like, oh fuck, I'm literally not allowed to be a kid anymore, or half the shit I cared about, I can't even care about now because I have to be worried about raising a person the right way. So, fortunately for me, I'm really loving and embracing being a father, but I can see how this is so fucking scary for people and how if you don't have your shit wired tight, like this can easily become this situation that we have in front of us, which we don't know. Why does he have the broken arm? Did he get into a fight? You know what I mean? Like he said he doesn't remember. Is this guy a huge alcoholic? Is he going to kill himself? Did he kill himself? You know what I mean? Like it's so much there for you to kind of just fill in yourself. So I think that's what makes the movie so great. It's almost like this pick your own adventure, even though that's nowhere near intended, or like that would seem like a gimmick, but it's not. It lets you fill it in for yourself. And I think that's why it becomes so personable. Because you're like, fuck, I've done this,
Yeah.
Like I've been on awkward vacations with my dad in Vegas after my parents separated, and you'd be like, damn, bro, you sad. Like, me too. Fuck.
Yeah.
All right, let's go swimming.
All right. Yeah, I guess.
Oh, man. So for me, like I can't even be... I can't be fair about this movie. I can't be unbiased about this movie, man. I've seen this shit. I've been through this shit. Be like, so, wow, representation. They made a movie about my life. Be like, so.
But I think, for it to be a movie about such a heavy topic and for it to be so artistically well done, like you said, a movie that does feel more on the art house type of, like a appeal is the word I was looking for. Not really too much, but I do think if you had to pick between the mainstream and more, we kind of had the joke that somebody says it's only movies for Marvel boys and what do you say?
Oh, it's fucking dumbass on Twitter. That stupid film Twitter world, dude. Yeah, they only make movies Phase 6 and for Juilliard applicants, bro. Be like, well, that's how I know you're a dumbass. Be like, what does Juilliard have to do with movies?
Yeah.
Anyway,
but
we're talking art and dance and painting and sculpting and all that kind of shit. We're not talking about fucking USC's film school, dude.
Exactly. But not to give too much credit to it, any argument of that sake. But if you're gonna break it down to those two type of, which is not to shit on it too much, but a lot of people do seem to go do some field work. A lot of people seem to feel that way, you know. Yeah, they don't see too many movies a year. Aftersun doesn't seem like something you would. When are you going to throw this on Christmas, right?
Well, how am I supposed to recommend this movie?
Yeah.
Like, this is a feel good, feel bad movie. Like, it really, really is. Like, hey, do you want to be sad for like 2 hours?
Yeah.
Like, do you want to just see like a really shitty thing happen?
And I think the same way that because we're so heavy into movies, we understand that the emotional palette is something that I like using while watching films. Sad, it's an emotion that really comes out too unforced in a movie for me. In terms of there is movies that might be a little sad and you're kind of like, damn, that's, you know, but for it to just genuinely like bring you to tears, or you get that one movie, right? The one movie tear,
the Denzel and Glory,
like because you couldn't hold it back, you know, and for a movie to be able to do that, and also like you said, have nothing really happen the whole time, all of it be said under the wraps, is I think it just doesn't get really much better than that.
Yeah, man, it's just so good, so real. There's so many moments, like the things that do happen in the movie, they feel like nothing, right? But just to go through a few of them that you would think like, how is this interesting at all? But you just had to have. It feels so weird to be like, you don't understand this movie if you haven't lived this. But you know, there's just those moments like he passes her scuba mask and she drops it, and you know, he's fucking heated. He wants to like lose his shit on her, but he knows he can't. You know, and I'm sure his parents did that to him, and I'm sure in those self-help meditating books and Tai Chi or whatever that he's doing, that, you know, he's been learning that this is not the way to raise a child, right? But that emotion is there. You can see it. He wants to fucking like, oh, why did you do that? You know what I mean? But he has to hold back because, especially too, since he's a divorced dad, or, you know, a separated dad, what's he going to do? Like, oh yeah, I took my daughter on vacation, then I fucking yelled at her. But he wants to, you know, but he can't be like, and that is one of those things about being a parent too, that I'm sure is very fucking difficult when you want to be human. You want to have that moment where you're yelling and screaming and, you know, being immature or whatever. And you just can't, because like, what am I going to do? Teach my daughter or son that this is okay? Or I'm going to fucking, you know, I'm going to make it act like, oh, you know, it is okay to act like this in public, which it's not, you know, like there's just so much there of like he's already this like really sad fucking person who is obviously having a hard time in life outside of being a dad. And then to just throw in like this stuff like, oh, I brought you on this vacation that I can't afford, and I bought you this fucking mask and you dropped it, and now I have to pretend I'm not mad because if I hurt your feeling, or my feelings are hurt, but now I'm gonna hurt your feelings, and then it's gonna make me feel worse, you know? Like, it's just that unfairness that comes with like, you know, raising a person. You're like, oh, I literally can't do the thing I want to do right now because like how this could affect your entire fucking life or future, you know? And you would think like, wow, all of that just because she dropped a mask. It's like, but if you've done it, you fucking know. Like if your parents were, you know, a little broke or whatever, and they bought you some fucking soccer cleats or shoes and you fucked them up, you already knew when you got home, and you're like, oh, fuck, this is so bad. This is the worst thing that could have happened, you know? And be, like you said, hey, you're fortunate if you don't know what this is like, but this stuff is all too real, dude. All too real.
Yeah. Then there's, again, you add like the moments of her growing up. She's trying to find out what she's into, honestly.
Yeah, because she's also going through adolescence. You know, she's 11 years old. And if you remember being 11 years old, that's some dark shit right there. You're like, oh, fuck, like, I might be having sex, or I might try alcohol or whatever. Like, not now, but, you know, like, so when I get to high school, I'm supposed to do that, you know? And like, it's different for some people, you know? Some people are, you know, they're quick to fucking jump on the like, oh, I want to be an adult train. Like, I'm going to drink, I'm going to have sex, whatever. But when you're like 11 years old, it's kind of even hard to fathom that, like, so I'm supposed to start kissing people and I'm supposed to start like doing adult shit or whatever. And like, that's tough, dude. And I mean, I know you probably know some people who, and we all do that, like when they grew up, it's like, damn, dude, you're 20 years old and you still act like you're 11, and not because it's like, but in a positive way, if that makes sense. You know, like wow, you still have that joyous whimsy.
Yeah,
you know that like where that shit's gonna get taken from you. Like, and you're lucky if you have it that long. But 11, 12 years old, when you go into middle school or whatever, or puberty starts hitting, like, dude, and be like, and to pretend like you don't, it's just false.
Yeah, and I mean the movie has
not me. I was different when I was 11.
I already knew.
Yeah, no, I already knew I was into that.
Not like it's literally chemically happening, And I think that is something else, that there is a chemical. She's growing up, hormones are coming in, also appearances of what might be, generational depression. And it is an interesting thing to see as a dad who's struggling or really at their best trying to deal with it. But there is even moments of her finding out what she should be doing with boys or with girls that like 3 years older than her are doing, being told boys are disgusting, seeing two boys kiss each other and having reactions to that, which we later find out, I guess, that like she does seem to be partnered with a woman. So those are all things that in the movie seem to be like, at 11 years old, you're exposed to these things for the first time. You're kind of sort of hanging out with some teenagers. You kind of see what it is to be quote unquote like in a little lovebird situation and growing up.
She's entering that phase in her life where you start to realize who you are, or like, who am I going to be? And like, oh fuck, that's a decision I have to make.
Yeah.
Like, I'm not just going to be a kid forever who's playing arcade games and pool. Like, I'm supposed to be kissing people. I'm supposed to be doing all of this, like, and that along with your sad dad and his sad life and your, this is a lot to deal with, man.
And I think it's a visual, like you said, this movie really uses the medium to express all the emotions and things you can't really get at. There's a scene where the dad's trying to cut the cast off of his hand, and she's talking to her in the other side of the room, or there's a wall between them. And I think obviously that's like,
whoa, metaphorical.
Yeah, exactly. That's what I was gonna get at. But it is there is this wall between them, but it's not a wall that they can really do anything about. It is like you said, that joyous whimsy that life takes from you after a certain age, because you become less hopeful. Maybe things start to look a lot more like you come down on reality. As a kid, you're kind of pushed to believe that you could do whatever you want, or that these things to kind of live life, or worry free. But there's this wall that lives between them, and she is not going to understand her dad, and he's not going to understand her. And again, I know it's very it's such a beginner type of things, but I think
these are beginner emotions, you rookie. Huh?
Yeah, those would be also things that realistically do happen. There is certain situations where people could live right next to somebody in the same house as somebody, but not really understand them and not know them. And so although the technique might seem like amateur filmmaking, it is a very realistic emotion people have.
I wouldn't even say that I don't think he understands her. I think what makes it so sad is that he does.
Yeah, that's true.
But that he can't do anything. Like, he sees all of this happening in front of him and how helpless he is in all of it.
Yeah,
it's like,
that's true.
Fuck, like, I wanted this to not happen. I specifically asked you to not do this. Like, and this is exactly what is fucking happening. Like, that's what's really rough. He's trying. He's doing the best he can fucking do, and it's not good enough. These are things that are beyond either of their control, and like, that's what makes it so fucking heartbreaking, dude, is that she's becoming him like right in front of him. It's like, dude, I can see this. Like, she sounds like me, she talks like me, she's acting like me, and like, this is not what I wanted for her, and why, how? And it's like, it's easy to just be like, because divorce or because separation, like, it's because he's not in a traditional household with his wife, but That's what fucking sucks, is that because he's not there with his, his ex or whatever, and because he's not raising her together in his household, like, she's had to deal with that real shit since he was like 6 years old, of like, no, my parents don't live in the same place. Like, I live here and my dad lives there, and I only get to see him once in a while. And like, yeah, at 6 years old, guess what? You're gonna have to fucking grow up then. And like, how fair is that to her, And like, that's what makes it so heartbreaking, is that I'm sure this is not what he wanted or how he thought his life was going to turn out. And then just to see, it's like, fuck, man. Like, I know I'm saying a lot of the same things over, but it's just because it hits me so hard, dude. It's just so personal to me and so many other people. So it was just really fucking like therapeutic to see a movie like this,
Yeah, I was going to say, one other thing that I did, a moment that I thought kind of speaks about how good of a father he really wants to be, is the importance he kind of places on teaching her to physically defend herself in the beginning. Kind of telling her, no, this is really important. So like, you need to learn this. And I think it is almost everything else in the movie is trying to mentally prepare her for the battles that she's going to go through. But there is no way to really explain those things to her without breaking the innocence. And that's where the tension lies, and that's where we do get the moments where we are taught that these are just moments that Sophie, as an adult, is later trying to piece together to try to understand. Maybe she added 30 years. We let her find out towards the end of the movie that it is her birthday, and maybe she's turning the same age that her father was. And,
yeah, she is, because it's 20 years later.
And it is just kind of being able to put on that last trip, what it seems like to me, that they had last interactions, and to be able to see the sadness that was so prevalent in her father. There's another scene that really stands out to me, is the movie starts this way where he's dancing, but later we end up kind of meeting again with that scene. But when she turns off the camera, we basically get this line delivery, but it's only off of the reflection of the TV, and then there's like another mirror in the back. And I think this just really speaks about this conversation happened and it wasn't recorded, but it so much holds the same emotional weight that something that she did record was there.
The moment she'll never forget.
Yeah, like what was the part that, and she makes the joke like, "Don't worry, I'll record this one with the mental one."
She did.
and it's because, and that's the shot that we're getting. It's the shot that where the audience gets kind of told like, you can't see this, but we're seeing it through reflection that this is indeed happening, and this seems to hold the most weight with Sophie, because when she's 30 and reflecting on these things, these are the moments that she's like, I get it. This was happening. This is recorded, but this is what was happening. And the whole scenes where we kind of get them dancing, I just thought that those were just beautiful scenes, honestly, even though they're
so
kind of
simple.
strobed. Yeah, it's just a strobe light and it's just someone dancing. But as even as simple as this thing of under pressure being used in the opposite way it usually is, and being more which is weird because it's the literal sense of what the song is saying. But to even see that and how it's spinned, and how later the two just connect, like adult Sophie and adult and her dad, in a place where they don't at the moment, it seems the movie infers, they don't reside together in real life. He seems to be gone, and in a weird way, this emotional imbalance, this trip will always be a moment that they live together in her brain. And
I was so glad this wasn't like a melodramatic movie. Like as much as I love the Fablemans, I'm so glad this wasn't like the Fablemans.
Yeah.
Just because it just made it so much more real. Like that was like the the shiny, clean, fantasized version of your parents getting separated.
Yeah, exactly.
Which I loved, I adored.
It's different.
One of my favorite movies of the year, but to see it from both sides, like, no, this is the real, and not even to be like, this is gritty, but like, this was just more grounded, more realistic, more show and don't tell than even the Fablemans was, But yeah, man, I just think for some reason, the older I get, be like, these two movies I feel like these are gonna stick with me for a long time.
I just think like the way to describe it is there's certain books that you read that put you in, like, they just have exalting moods that stand out so much. Like they have this longing, or they make you create this ambiance that usually nothing else really can. But this movie really gave me that feeling, and in terms of these emotions and how to feel about them. And those are emotions that usually aren't very talked about, and they're definitely not expressed in this situation very much. We did On the Count of Three, a movie that kind of does talk about also the same thought process that is very obvious that the dad is going through here. A very different approach to how to feel about those emotions, and a very different approach to it as from the director.
I was so worried that he was going to kill himself in this movie.
Yeah, and that's what you're like, and
even I feel like maybe because she's 11 years old, she doesn't understand that. But I feel that that the character of Sophie does understand this. Like, I'm kind of scared for my dad. You know what I mean? Which is like, that's a whole other thing. When you're worried about your parents like that at such a young age, to just kind of like, no, I can tell something's wrong, though. It isn't just that you're, my dad's kind of quiet or whatever, it's just, yeah. So
there's that resentment that she holds, though, too, possibly because that's after the inciting incident happens, where she kind of just brings up to him that she's kind of tired of the excuses and to kind of not really make fake promises. And I think as a kid, just in terms of how close we are, there's certain things, like you said, that hit close to home, and that is certain things that I'm sure that are very relatable to someone like you. And I think you don't like when you say those things at that age, you don't know the weight that they hold. And Sophie's like the thought process that she has of what her dad was after, having this small, like you said, this is the moment that in any other movie would have been the big argument.
Grow
this is
up, be a man, be my father. Like one of those moments.
But here it's just like 2 lines, and it works so much better than anything I could have really thought about myself. But it's that like Sophie can 30 years later can think about what that would have done to her dad in terms of seeing how much he was actively trying with what he had, his situation
he
outside.
Wants so much for her, but it's not like his broke ass can give it to her. Be like,
and it's not even like you said, like you could cast aside that he actually, like, why is he broke? Those are questions that it's where the tension comes. Like, well, it seems that he's not old. He does, like, when I thought I'd be 30, I thought I wouldn't even be here anymore. And to also have that thought process while also being like, but I have to raise this kid and not let her think this way. So those decisions that you're going to make because you don't even really want to stick around, those decisions impact what you can financially bring to the person that you brought into this world, which will negatively impact the situation or the relationship that you two could have, because there's a resentment that grows, especially if you're not together as the nuclear family. And for that all to blow up in 2 lines.
Yeah, it's like that's the big moment in this movie, right? But it's nothing. It's so small. And it's so real too. It's like, look, I'm not trying to talk shit, but why do you offer to buy things that you can't afford? Like, you shouldn't do that. Like, why are you making fake promises to me? And like, every kid knows that fucking a fake promise is like the worst thing that an adult can do to you, you know? Because you're like, why? I didn't even have this in my head. You're the one who put it there, just to disappoint me. So I understand it from both sides. It's just really a fucking tough pill to swallow, that scene, because you're like, God damn, like, this vacation costed him, like. And the other big moment for me is that he wants to buy like this traditional like Turkish rug, right? And he's in love with it, and whatever, it's a rug, he can feel that way, he's an adult, right? But he knows he can't afford it. It's $850 or pounds or whatever, right? And oh, well, they're on this vacation, they must be able to afford it. Yeah, but they're staying at this like rundown, rinky-dink, like half-built motel. They are constantly ducking, like, he's ducking any excuse for why they don't do activities. You know what I mean? Like, oh, why can't I go parasailing? Oh, you're too young.
Puppet.
Even though if you look up there close enough, you're like, I'm sure that person, like, there's probably a kid up there. You know what I mean? So, they dine and ditch one night. You know what I mean? Like, or dine and dash. So this is really costing him, and he's just saying something he wants so bad. And even if you don't have a kid, you know what it's fucking like. And hey, and like you said, if you don't, good for you. You know what? Fuck you. Good for you that you don't know what it's like to stress out over buying a rug that you can't afford. But that moment right there of just knowing that like, fuck, like I can't have this because my life sucks. Like, I don't have a fucking job. I don't have savings. And I can't really like this, like fucking Joe Exotic. I will never financially recover from this.
Yeah.
If I buy this rug, you know what I mean? Be like, but I want it so bad, and I want things. I'm not greedy. It's not like he's swimming in designer clothes and nice hotels. Like, this is just a man who wants a fucking rug, but he can't even get it because he's so fucking broke, and that he's so embarrassed about being broke that he has to sneak away to buy this thing.
Yeah.
And he fucking, you can just see it on his face that he's like, I've made a huge mistake, like I'm being completely selfish. I shouldn't have done this or whatever, but fuck, man, he's human. This guy wants this thing. Why shouldn't he be allowed to have it? Yeah. It's just these small moments like that where it's like, good for you if you haven't been through it, like you've said, but all too real for too many of us, dude. If you're listening to this podcast, you've for sure been to IKEA and be like, God, I want this rug and I can't fucking afford it.
Exactly. Yeah, no, I agree.
Now imagine healthcare and a car and a future and a secure home on top of that. I can't even buy a fucking rug. And now I'm supposed to provide for another person? What the fuck?
Yeah.
I thought I was going to be, I wasn't planning on being 30 years old. I have no life savings. Like, and now I have to fucking raise a person. Like, oh, Jesus Christ.
Yeah,
and now she hates me because I'm fucking broke and I was never planning on even, I wasn't planning on having you. How the fuck was I supposed to know I was supposed to be saving money, Yeah. It's just too deep, dude.
Yeah, no,
like, yo, this is too real, bro. Maybe you shouldn't have made this.
Come on, man.
And I know that she doesn't, if the movie is as honest as it seems, she doesn't have a relationship with her father currently. So, she had even bigger balls than Steven Spielberg to be like,
he's alive.
This piece of shit's out there somewhere.
Yeah,
I hope he sees this, even though I don't feel like that's the general vibe that was given off of like, I hate my dad or whatever. But, just for the comedy styles, for the jokes, her dad is still out there somewhere. And he's probably watching this movie and thinking like, I fucked up, and it's just so sad too, because when you think about it, you're like, I could see why he decided that it's probably better that I'm not involved in your life because like I'm just gonna make it worse. But dude, you're her dad. You can't fucking do that, Like the little that you were giving her is more than enough. She had the time of her life, but I also understand, I guess. I would never do it, but I could totally get why he was like, I'm just gonna fucking ruin her the way I ruined myself,
Yeah.
So I get it, but you can't do that, dude. It's part of the binding contract of having a kid. You can't fucking abandon them. That's kind of the first rule.
No, I mean, I agree. Yeah, I agree. Some of the beauty that I think again, just visual cues of this movie or poetry through art, not really saying much, just doing it. And we kind of start off with like, well, kind of what the scene that you said with they dine and dash. It is turning such a negative thing like being broke into a positive experience that she'll remember, right? We threw eggs at the dumb people who are doing the Macarena or whatever. But then also the way the movie kind of like starts, and we kind of get also she's asleep and we just get him sneaking out to go smoke, right? That's like one of the first scenes that we get. But then we're also kind of later shown that he teaches her like smoking is really bad for you and all of these things. But then the movie ends up going into a scene where he's passed out and she seems to be mimicking the same stuff that he's doing, and again kind of replacing how she so well fits into the same world that he's in, and again just being able to show that without saying. There's no lines in that whole exchange or that whole part where she goes into the room. So many of the scenes, like for example, when he does get saying happy birthday to him, and what she ends
just
up
ruined his whole fucking day.
Yeah, because she ends up later thinking like her being that age, like, well, how does she feel when her, as I say, girlfriend for the sake of argument tells her I love you, happy birthday. For some reason, sometimes it is a reflection on the same emotions that we said, that you might see yourself as an 11-year-old on a video and like, oh fuck, I'm 31 now, and Like what have I done, or what haven't I done, or what errors am I falling into that I'm like, I get it now. I get this trip now. Everything makes so much sense now, and I feel stupid for never really understanding that. But you can't at that age. But I think that the movie, again, through those scenes, without saying much dialogue in any of those scenes, just being heavy transitions, very light. The score isn't anything too heavy.
It's a pretty minimalist movie. Like, it's a micro movie. Like, I feel like I don't know if that is a coined term by anybody yet, but that's the term I'd like to start using. And I don't mean it in any negative connotation at all, but it's a micro movie. It's not about it's not about flexing the technical prowess of these people. It's not about, telling this complex, deep story that's going to change your life. It's just these really small little personal movies that almost feel like they kind of existed like this whole time. Like, I've been meaning to say that since we started, is that this movie feels timeless. Mm-hmm. And I think it is because of that home video factor, or the fact that it's just about like memories and reflection and all of that it's the kind of stuff that just feels like it's always existed. Like, I feel like I found this, not that it was made.
Yeah, not even that it really would have came out this year.
Yeah, so I mean, I don't have too much more to say, except see this fucking movie, man. Be like, I know we made it sound sad or whatever, but this is some good shit right here, and I definitely think more people need to see it.
Finally some good content.
Finally some good fucking content.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't have much more else to say either. I think I've been, as you could tell, lunatically gloating about this. I mean, I kind of been going in circles in terms of describing it, but obviously not trying to ruin too much. But yeah, biggest thing is to definitely go watch this. It seems to be more available now. I don't expect any awards or anything for this. It's just way too small, I think. But I wish it did.
Paul Mescal, best actor, dude.
Yeah,
but nah, they're not going to.
But yeah, Aftersun, brilliant film, brilliant debut. Just a beautiful, gorgeous film, which is not something I usually would end the film as the words to describe it, but I just truly think it's one of the most beautiful films I've seen. Yeah, man. I mean, you said it best. I don't have anything else to say except go see this fucking movie, please, please, please. If you like and subscribe, comment, whatever, do all the shit you got to do. And just, watch this fucking movie, man. It made us very sad, but also very happy. And isn't that everything? Cinema, baby. Cinema, baby. Very kino. The movies are back.